You ready? All right. What's going on, people? This is I don't write the podcast down. It's two idiots doing a podcast, right? Something like that. We're gonna figure it out as
I
we
don't think
go.
we actually came up with a name, but
We never really came up with the name. Two idiots doing a podcast right now. My name is Nate Pat. Uh, Coming to you live from the great mid state of Illinois. I live in Texas, but currently in Illinois right now. And this is I'll let you introduce yourself.
yeah, I'm Daniel. From Texas, but now live in Missouri.
Much better state. Well, to kind of cover the highlight what this podcast is going to be about, we're going to be covering a couple of our favorite sports. Kind of what triggered the idea is we just, first of all, feel like we're much smarter than the average idiot on ESPN. Which, to be fair, the bar is not very high there, right? If you get 7 straight NBA finals wrong, like, should you be an analyst? No. But Daniel and I were texting about a bunch of stuff, and just were like, with how much we rant about certain things, it'd be funnier to record it and post on Spotify. Um,
Get down here.
so now we're here. So kind of improving on all this sort of stuff. It'll get better as we go. We'll have hopefully maybe even come up with a little jingle. I'm not very good with that stuff, but maybe someday we'll have our little logo and we'll have an official name eventually. If it makes it feel better, Random Tangent, the New Girl podcast didn't have a name right away, and they're doing pretty well. So
Honestly, I like two idiots doing a sports podcast. That's
I think it's a good name. I think for an AI generated, it's pretty funny.
yeah,
It's pretty
for
good.
not being
So
creative.
yeah, right. Um, but yeah, so what we're covering is our favorite sports for the most part. It's college football, MLB, and AHL. Those are the big ones. We'll also throw in some NFL stuff when something big happens. Um, Maybe NBA if it's like probably just mainly playoffs or if like a massive trade happens. Otherwise, screw the NBA. Ratings have gone down 48% in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
I'm not contributing to bringing it back up. They did it to themselves. So,
I mean, apparently I saw something where even the ratings be up or down from like $200
that's
to 90.
that's insane. Well,
Yeah, in 1 year.
yeah, they've really messed with their sport a lot, and it's really bad. But yeah, long story short, we're not really going to cover that. So really going to cover any major sport or major like something that absolutely is groundbreaking. So, but yeah, we'll jump right into a couple things. And then on top of that, really quick, we'll also cover like our sports cities. So Daniel will cover more Texas. I'll cover Chicago, and to get it out there, I did bandwagon the Patriots as a scum idiot as a kid. So guilty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Chicago sports suck. I couldn't handle watching Illinois college football go 3-9 every year. I apologize in advance.
That's fair.
I'm sorry, but I couldn't handle it as an 8-year-old. It was too painful. Um so yeah, if I'm talking about Patriots and Chicago stuff, that's why, people. I'm sorry, I'm a loser. I'm not a true NFL fan. I'll never call myself a true NFL fan. So they'll
Yeah,
also
no,
be covered. So but yeah, so we can jump right into college football first. Um so you had brought up the playoff bracket, what your thoughts are. Maybe we can either do like predictions of the first round or just predictions as a whole. I guess we could probably, you mentioned who you think will win it all, so we could probably just go through that really quick. So, who are you feeling?
uh, I don't know. I mean, I think there's teams in it that have an easier path
Yeah,
to college football playoff. Like for example, Texas is sitting in a pretty decent spot with playing Clemson, who really only got in because of winning a conference championship, and then if they win that, they go play Arizona State. Which I'm not saying Arizona State's going to be easy, but it's easier than having to face Georgia for a third time or
Yeah,
Oregon or I mean even Boise. I think Genty will just no matter who he's up against, will just run against everyone. But I think I don't know. I think Oregon is being taken too lightly. Um, I think I think
yeah,
they're for real. I understand they haven't played. I mean, the mass majority of great teams, but also they beat Ohio
yeah.
State, and then they went and beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship. And I think you're
Championship.
just
Yep.
seeing a little glimpse of what they're actually made of. And then I hate to say this because he was a Sooner, but Gabriel is, I think, the real deal.
Yeah,
And as a Texas fan, that hurts to say because they're number 5 and sitting in a good spot. But I don't think Ewers can get us to a championship,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, yours is really spiraled out of control for sure. It's tough to see, but that injury has really shattered his confidence, and I think I think it's a
Yeah,
good idea for him to stay for another year. The problem is, 100% got to transfer because there's no Manning's ready and
yeah,
he's gonna want to play. If I'm Texas, I'm saying sorry, Ewers, but we're going with Manning at this point. So, well, I
yeah,
think it is Ewers' best interest to stay in college football another year, regain the
yeah. I mean,
confidence he's had because he's a talented player. He, you
yeah,
know,
and yeah.
he's
Oh yeah,
he contributed to the team getting to this point. But ever since that injury this year, he's just looked lost. And honestly, Texas should have played Manning, as we talked about, should have played him much
yeah,
sooner. But
yeah,
as as for me, um, I'm just not a believer in Big Ten football ever. Usually, for the most part, just because they stick to traditional run the ball like crazy. You do rely on the defense, but they can't throw for squat. They never can. Now, of course, Oregon isn't traditional Big Ten football. They do play with a different style. They do play with a different confidence that the other teams do. So beating Penn State's not really a surprise. Penn State's kind of allergic to one thing, as most people know, beating a top 10 team. So,
that's fair. That's fair.
so for me, I'm not a believer in Penn State. I think they could squeak out a first round win, but I think Boise State might pull off an upset there. I think Genty's going to run all over him. He did run
Yeah,
really well against Oregon, dropping 190 yards. But in terms of a national champion, it's really hard to know. This is, in theory, I was talking about this with another friend. This should be Oregon's year.
oh
There's
yeah,
no excuses, in my opinion. Like you are set up really pretty to if you could beat Ohio State, you're in a really good spot. Like that, in years past, they had a couple teams that looked really good. Just ran into brick walls and Cam Newton, and ironically Ohio State back in 2015. Um, just a little bit of talent disparity there, but this year everybody's a mess. Oregon needs to take advantage of it, and in my opinion, I think they have the most pressure to win it. You don't have a championship under your belts. Got to get it done. You have the best talent. You're undefeated. The only undefeated team here, to my knowledge. Got to get
yeah.
it done. So I think if they get past Ohio State, nobody's stopping them. But that's a big if. I know they beat them once. Got to do it again. So,
I
um,
mean, the hardest thing is always beating the team the second time. I mean, Georgia did it, but it wasn't easy, and it never is.
yeah, for sure. Well, and as you know, though, ultimately, I'm going to take Oregon to beat Ohio State, and I think Oregon will win it. Um, as most people will find out, I'm a certified Ohio State hater. Uh, I will do my best to be objective with them, but I am just, oh my gosh, I'm the biggest hater out there. I cannot stand them. But
Yeah, I also think
I
for Ohio
just,
State, the quarterback situation is a little you don't
they got
fully know what
somehow
you're
got
getting.
even worse than
Yeah,
Kyle McCord. Absolutely
With
crazy.
Will Howard, I mean, he was just injury prone at Kansas State when he played for Kansas State, but even when he was there, he was known as more of a runner. And
just
I
didn't
mean,
stop.
even watching, I mean, a couple games, the Indiana game, which is the big one, and then the Michigan game, like, sheesh. You see spurts of being good, but then you see spurts of being really
What
bad.
the heck is that? Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think it helps that his coach is kind of on the hot seat.
that's fair.
No. Ryan Day, I'm an advocate for him getting a lifetime extension. No particular reason. um, I guess to be fair, I don't think it's necessarily fair to call for his head just because I know he's done great against teams ranked above him, but that's mostly because it's been Michigan. He hasn't really lost
Yeah,
to anyone
yeah,
outside that for the most part. The Oregon loss, the way they lost was a disaster, but it wasn't
yeah,
necessarily a bad game. So I do think I think they're being a little harsh on them.
yeah. I mean, I think
Um,
the playoffs will. I mean,
yeah,
if they lose first round, then that will pretty much make his bed.
that
Because I
should do
think,
it, in my opinion. You lose to Tennessee, it
yeah,
should be done. But
I think
no,
Tennessee's
no
also an
disrespect to
underrated
Tennessee.
team. Yeah,
Tennessee and Clemson
I think
could be interesting, but yeah,
I also think Arizona State's a dark horse. Like, yes, they play in the Big 12. I understand that, but like
their running back's a beast.
Cam Scatabo though,
He's a
whew,
beast.
he is something, and I think he's also massively underrated. And I think he has a gripe about where he finished in the Heisman because he had probably a little less as good of a year as Genty did, but no one talks
To
about him
not
until
have a
the Big 12.
Heisman to not have a Heisman nod is crazy. Like
Yeah,
I just,
yeah,
as you know, like I said, as we've talked, and Blake knows too. I'm a certified, also a hater of Cam Ward. Ridiculous that he got a Heisman nod over
yeah,
him. That's just utterly, as great as he was at it, incarnate word. You're playing against the big boys, and he did not look.
yeah,
He didn't necessarily look bad, but again, they should have had 3 or 4 losses. But ref's gonna ref, right? So,
yeah,
but they're
yeah,
not here. They're not here. We're talking about the playoffs.
yeah.
So,
I
um,
mean, but to move on from the playoffs,
yeah.
your boy Belichick went to North Carolina.
Well, we know why he went to North Carolina. He's going to hang out in them college dorms, baby.
Yeah. I
Freaking
mean,
wild.
my biggest thing is, I mean, a lot of college football right now is a little bit the same as the NFL. Like, there's paying the NIL deals now. There's making sure your players are happy, all of that stuff. But I think even now, like, there's still differences in college football. So it's just going to be interesting to see how Belichick kind of adapts to college football because he's going to get the players because they're going to want to play for a guy that knows how to get to the NFL.
All thing I gotta say is he needs to stop looking for white wide receivers. Based, but come on, man. You got to recruit real receivers. That was my
Yeah,
only, well, I shouldn't say only complaint, but and his downfall with New England. My goodness, his inability to find wide receiver talent is unbelievable. I know he traded for Randy Moss and Wes Welker. Trading was different. Drafting was awful. I
yeah,
am worried about
that's fair.
how he's going to recruit wide receivers because that is going to be. Uh, I don't know how he's going to play. What his offensive style is going to look like. Granted, at North Carolina, so we'll have to see. If he
Yeah, I
runs the
mean,
ball more, it won't matter as much,
yeah.
and I think he can find a lot of success there. But
I don't know if
uh,
he's even said who his offensive coordinator
I
is
don't
going
think
to
he
be.
has.
I mean, I know
Josh
where you know.
McDaniels,
I know we know who his defensive coordinator is going to be, which is, I mean, his son. But
right?
we
He'll
don't
probably
know.
poach. He'll probably poach a couple guys from New England too, and
Yeah,
who
who
knows?
knows?
Maybe Pat Patricia makes another
Yeah,
failed stint as a defensive coordinator.
yes,
PTSD. But
yeah.
yeah, I
I
think
don't
it'll
know.
be fun to watch him at North Carolina. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there,
No,
but
you're fair.
I think it'll be an interesting experience, and I think he'll. They better turn into national contenders pretty quickly because there's just no excuse not to
Yeah,
want to play for a guy of his caliber.
yeah.
And I
I
think
would
the
say,
NFL should be embarrassed that they even let this happen. But
yeah, I would say he. I mean, they'll probably still have a pretty and I mean, it'll probably be better than they were this year, but next year I don't think they'll be to the probably
No, right.
goodness that we think they should be. But I think once he starts getting his players in there, I think
They're
then,
gonna
like, give
be
it
much,
like not next year, but the year after. I think we'll start to
yeah,
see the Belichick era
big
start.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 well, definitely didn't have that on my on my,
yeah.
bingo card, and going to North
I didn't
Carolina is
either.
crazy. Um,
Well, I mean, apparently he reached out to the Jets to see if they were.
that would have been outlandishly based. Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
he
Full
reached
circle,
out and they said
full
no,
circle.
and so that's why he went to North Carolina.
And that, yeah, you go from signing your resignation on a napkin with the Jets, your legacy in New England, and then you just end it off to go back to the Jets. That would have been amazing. But
It would have been a Jets thing to do.
yeah, Jets gonna jet. The fact that they had a guy like him reach out and they said nah, maybe there's some PTSD and
Maybe.
bird, bridges burned with the napkin gate, but I don't know, man. If I'm a disastrous organization like that, I'm like, oh yeah. But
Yeah, I would have said yes, but I mean, I'm not a general
whatever,
manager.
Jets, whatever. Rock with your 4-10 and enjoy that contract of Aaron Rodgers. Have fun.
Yeah,
But okay, really quick, back to college football. But we got to discuss it. We already talked about it a little bit the other night, but as most people know, there's a Heisman winner, and a lot of people are riled up about it. A lot of people felt like
yeah,
Ashton Genty should have won. My personal preference was he should have won. With that in mind, I think people are overreacting a bit. I think what Travis Hunter did, I think his impact is undeniable. Again, I know Dion probably has the biggest influence, and Shadur Sanders had bigger influences as to why they went from 0 wins to 9. But to say he didn't have an impact on the just complete culture change of what Colorado football looks like is not fair to hold that against him. He's done an amazing job at corner, at receiver. I think while I prefer Genty, I'm not mad about it. And I think people also need to, if people are going to be mad about Genty, by the way, they need to be mad about this one thing. Melvin Gordon, you remember he was at Wisconsin back in
mhm,
2016. You go look up his numbers at some point. Very similar to Ashton Genty. And on top of that, he played in the Big Ten. So he played in, no offense, a real conference and didn't win Heisman. He lost it to Marcus Mariota, of all people.
jeez.
And so if people are going to be mad about Ashton Genty, you better start getting mad about that because I think Gordon had 2,500 rushing yards. He had similar touchdown numbers, and he had a similar impact in the receiving game, which was minimal. But he had a couple touchdowns there too. So if we're going to be mad about this, I think there's another instance that we need to be mad about too. We need to be mad that Marcus Mariota beat out Melvin Gordon because that he is the same exact numbers on a much better, a much more proven, not even much more proven program in a much more proven conference. I should put it that way. So, um,
Yeah, I mean, I think now that I've had a day to sit, I agree. I think Hunter, I think also was undervalued, and like
yeah,
we've never seen other than his coach Deion Sanders do something like that before.
yeah,
And I mean, and playing both sides of the ball and being honestly, even though he didn't lead any categories on offense, but he was still dominant and hard to stop.
mhm,
So that needs to be taken into consideration. And like he wasn't like he was bottom of the NCAA and one an offense or defense. Like he was top, I think 20 in both on
well,
all categories. And so
yeah,
like he I think the standard that he's getting is not appropriate. I think he deserves it, and I mean Deion Sanders I feel like had a little bit of sway in it. I think, like I said, he
yeah.
did deserve it. but it doesn't take away from what Genty did. I mean,
It
I
stinks.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand he doesn't play in like a huge conference like Hunter does, or like the SEC, like Rick Henry did, or um, even the Big Ten, like stuff like that. I feel like when the sole game plan for defense is stopping Genty. I mean, he said it. He had 8 people in the box all the time, and he was
Mhm.
still breaking it loose. Like you have 5 linemen. There's 3 people that are running loose. So like, or you can count 6 if you want to put a tight end in there. But like, then there's still 2 people that are honed in on Genty. He's able to do what
Yeah.
he did. Once again,
Yeah.
I Hunter, great year, and I think he also deserved it. It just sucks to have both of those that have historic years in a sense the same
Yeah,
year.
it
Because I
does
think if
stink.
Genty does it next year, or if Hunter does it next year, then they win it pretty easily.
Well, it goes
But unfortunately, and fortunately for all of us, kind of both years, both on the
yeah.
same year.
Well, it kinda goes back to our conversation too. We had a very similar, uh, somewhat not as controversial, but the NL Rookie of the Year race, right? Where
Yeah,
we just had 2 just outstanding rookies that pretty much any other year, either guy wins it. Minus, again, if they faced Pujols, they stood no chance rookie
yeah.
year. That rookie year
Which,
was
which,
nuts.
yeah,
But
which is where I think we'll talk about the MLB here later. But I
right,
think that's
yeah.
where we need to do NL Rookie Pitcher of the Year and NL like Rookie Hitter of the Year because
I
I think
agree.
it's
That
just
that
wrong. I mean, and same for the AL, but like, um, I think it's wrong for a hitter out on the Rookie of the Year when he genuinely deserves it.
to
When
do
you have a
Merrill like that,
pitcher
yeah.
like Skeens that
Yeah.
did what he did and was dominant from the first pitch on the mound. Um, and it's just unfortunate for Merrill, and it's unfortunate for not just Merrill, but other players who have had good years as a rookie and have missed out because there's a pitcher ahead of them or there's a hitter ahead of them where it's hard to compare a hitter and a pitcher just statistically. Like the only thing that you can really kind of compare them on is their rapport. Other than that, you can't really compare them. Skeens has an impact in one way. His impact on the mound. He controls how many runs he gives up. Well, Merrill only gets 3, 5 bats a game, and then obviously gets the field, but he doesn't get as
Yeah.
much of an impact as Skeens does, pitching 5, 6, 7 innings.
I agree. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack us there, by the way, but
You're fine.
it kind of reminded me. It was like this isn't
Yeah,
the first time we've really had this conversation of 2 just outstanding players that just happen to compete for a very prestigious award. So I think we had 2 other things for college really quick, and then move to MLB, which was we could go really quick. You had mentioned should conference get winners get the auto buy. Um, Tell me what are your thoughts there?
cut his name. I've thought this from when they kind of announced it. I don't think it kind of reignited the flame until it happened when the college football committee, you know,
Hmm.
said it was in the playoffs. Because I don't think it like once again, Boise State, you play in the Mountain West. Like had a great year. I'm not taking that away. You almost beat Oregon at Oregon. Also, almost a great win. But like you have the same schedule as an SEC team like Georgia, who
Yeah,
is in the dogfight every single week, or even though they didn't make the playoffs, Alabama, they should have made the playoffs, but Alabama, who also has the dogfight almost every week. Same with the Big Ten. Oregon has, I guess maybe Oregon only had 2 because I don't think they played They didn't play Indiana, but Ohio State. I hate to say this, but they had a bunch of top 25,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
giving an Arizona State also like giving Arizona State a bye when they played BYU and Iowa State, who aren't, in my
On the
opinion,
same
the
level.
greatest. and you can't put them on the same level as a Tennessee and Texas. I think it should go by your ranking. So if you're number one, you get a bye. If you're number two, you get a bye. If you're number three, you get a bye. Number four, you get a bye. If you are a conference champion, you get an automatic bid into it. So, like, if you're Clemson and you're number 16, but you won your conference, you get in.
Yeah.
But you don't get that auto buy if for somehow you're still above um,
Mhm.
one of the other conference champions. That's just my thoughts. Um,
I think that makes sense. I mean, it kinda goes
I
back
just
to
think
what happened last year. Um,
I just think it's unfair for a team like
yeah.
I don't know, Texas to be in the top four all year, losing the ACC championship game and then lose an auto bye because he lost a championship game, or Oregon lost. I don't think it's fair for them to drop from one to the five spot and lose out on a bye when they were undefeated the whole year and their only loss to the Big Ten championship.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And I think, like I said, it goes back to last year with the whole Florida State situation. I think there's just a lot of factors that you need to really take into consideration when you're seeding teams like these. Um, not that I want to add fuel to the fire for a team like Arizona State, who is by far the most disrespected team this year. But ultimately, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, are they really gonna are they gonna really beat a team like Texas? I mean, I find it hard to believe. Of course, you got to play the games, and I'm more kind of at a feel out process. Let's see what happens here, year one, in this format, and if we see a bunch of blowouts, probably should change it. But that being said, I'm not mad that they're doing it the way they're doing it right now. You know, Arizona State was a ton of fun to watch. Boise State was a ton of fun to watch, and they both had fantastic seasons and playing at least respectable conferences. Just unfortunate, like a team like Arizona State. You know, you lost your two big schools, right, in Texas, Oklahoma. So kind of the conference has lost a ton of value in that. But um, yeah, so just for me, it's really about feel it out. Let's see what happens. If these teams could at least keep the game competitive, then I say keep doing it as you're doing it for now. But if we see a bunch of blowouts, which we probably will see, Arizona State and Boise State kind of struggle. Might need to change it where we need to respect
Uh,
the teams that play a different more difficult schedule
yeah,
deserve those spots first. But I do agree with the sense that you win your conference and you're absolutely dominant at winning your conference. You should get that at least a clinch into the playoffs for sure. So
um, I will say this: Boise State is the underdog, and they're playing at the Fiesta Bowl. We know what happened the last two times. They've played in the Fiesta Bowl, and they were the underdogs.
that's true. That is true. They love their Fiesta Bowls, so we'll have to wait
So
and see.
we'll let
So
the Fiesta talk for itself.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, and then you mentioned Marshall is losing a bunch of people and
Yeah,
or they lost their coach and could lose a majority of their team. I did see that they declined their invitation to their bowl, which was interesting. I think it makes sense.
yeah.
Um,
Their coach went off to Southern, which is a little bit interesting. Um, Maybe he just likes building programs. I feel like Marshall, in my opinion, is a better program than Southern Miss, but I could be wrong. But yeah, no. Apparently, there's now 30 players in the portal,
oh,
which is another conversation that we can have next week about the transfer portal and
I agree.
our thoughts on how early it can open and stuff like that. But yeah, apparently 30 are in the portal, which means they don't have enough.
Oh
Yeah, so
gosh,
it sucks
Marsh.
for players on that team that want to be in that bowl game and play that bowl game. I mean, because they're playing Army, they're not playing a Joe Schmo like Jackson State or no
Yeah,
disrespect to Jackson State, but like they're actually playing a top 25 team in Army. Well, maybe not anymore, but like a respectable program throughout the year, and they don't get to play in that game because 30 of their other players are in the portal,
Yeah, it's
which I
unfortunate for
really
both
regret
teams. Yeah.
because now the NCAA is looking for a 5-17 to replace Marshall's spot, which is unfortunate because they're 10-3.
Well,
And
I'd throw Illinois in the ring, but we actually won 9 games, so
yeah,
yeah,
it's unfortunate for Marshall, and it's unfortunate for the players that are still there, and I feel for them. It
yeah.
sucks.
It does suck, and I do feel bad for them. So hopefully, yeah, I hope they can figure that situation out, but not looking good for them. But hey, one last thought on college football. Don't mean to brag. During the Illinois Tennessee college basketball game, Luke Altmaier, Illinois quarterback, there was thoughts that he could transfer. He is staying, baby. We're cooking, and I just gotta say, we're back. I'm just kidding. We've never been here. Can't say that, but thank goodness. Illini Nation, praise the heavens. Our quarterback is coming back for his senior year. So, I was getting stressed. So, just throwing that out there really quick. So that was one little good news for us because it was looking sketchy for a bit that we were probably going to go back to our 10 years of 3-9. So we might delay the inevitable at least one more year. So, woo! Okay, so I think that's about covers college football for now. We are going to transition over to the MLB. First things first. I mean, unless if you live under a rock, there was a certain Mets signing. Juan Soto, everybody knows, 15
Yeah,
years, could be up to 800 million, depending on how that all plays out.
yeah,
Um, for me, I'll just kind of jump in initial reactions. Does feel like a bit of an overpay. I mean, but I think with how the market, how things have been going, on top of how desperate teams are to beat the Dodgers, I think this is the right move for the Mets. It may hurt them bringing back Alonso. I'm more and more convinced he's going to leave now because of this. Because it sounds like they're this could be for another day, but it does sound like they're not really on the same page about a contract. But I think it's a huge signing for them, and it shows that their owner means business. He is standing up to the Dodgers and saying, "No more. We're gonna jump in and we're gonna spend every last dollar to become World Series contenders." So I think it's a great signing for him, even if it seems like an overpay. Yeah, he doesn't have a great glove. So be it. He gets on base so much. He's such a good hitter that to me it doesn't matter. And the one last thing I'll note before I'll let you jump in. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, well, he got paid more than Otani. Okay. Yeah, Otani's a beast of a pitcher. Here's the problem with Otani. He's a heck of a pitcher when he pitches. If he gets one more Tommy John surgery, it's over. I
hmm
just don't see him pitching with multiple Tommy Johns. And the third injury he had to start off his career, he's already kind of pushing it with his arms. So could argue that to me the Dodgers still overpaid for Otani, of course, albeit they did the stupid deferred nonsense. So yeah, is Soto getting overpaid? Sure. And maybe there's an argument they shouldn't be paid more than Otani, but to me, Soto's a better hitter than Otani for the most part. Um, yeah, it just really comes down to is it really worth paying that much money for a guy that's not great defensively? I say yes. If you're trying to win the World Series and you're trying to do whatever it takes to make other teams competitive, even if it means spending $1 billion, it's worth it to me. Yeah, someone's got to stand up to the Dodgers, and at least Steve Cohen, and even the Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Yankees, they showed they're at least willing to uh, spend a ton of money as well, albeit not the extra 65, but at least two of them weren't. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of an overpay, but I mean, you're paying for his back. I mean, yeah, he's not a great fielder. But his career WAR, which is wins above placements, is still a
Insane.
36.3.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, his glove may not be the greatest, but like the dude is still showing that he doesn't need his glove to show it all. And his WAR last year was 8.1, which is still really good. Um, I think 15 years is a little long because he's 26, so he'll be 41 by the time the
That's a
contract's
big
over. But there's always the DH, and the NL having the DH I think is helpful for the Mets because now they can just slot Juan Soto there for the last whoever knows how long of his career and don't have to let him field. Honestly, we talked about this with Corey Seager. If they even wanted to, they could just slot him in at DH. But that's
Yeah,
a
right.
765 million price tag's a lot for a DH. But yeah, no, I don't think anything about. The Mets are evening the playing field. They're not a huge market team. They haven't ever been. Uh,
Hmm.
they're more of a mid market. Like they'll spend money on players that they want, but I don't think, to my knowledge, than Bobby Bonilla have spent a lot of money, and that's what they did here.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but and I think the biggest thing was they didn't defer any of the money, which apparently the Yankees and the Mets had almost the same contract. The Yankees offered, I think it was 5 million less. I think they
There's 5 million
were at
less. Yep.
yeah, yeah, but I think the caveat was that Soto has a chance to earn 55 if he doesn't opt out
Yeah.
after the 50. So I think that's where the major difference was.
Yeah.
But Cashman then lost out on a because he waited too long, and they missed out on their top two guys, and they even lost out on Tucker, who just got traded to the Cubs a couple of days
Yeah.
ago. So they're missing out on a lot right now. I think that's because they're all in on Soto,
Which is
and
bold.
because the domino did their way, they lost out on all these other players that honestly probably would benefit their team,
Mhm.
and they just don't get it. It's hard to replace a guy like Soto in your lineup. You're not going to. When you hit 40 home runs, 100 plus RBIs, and that's hard to replace with one player. But Adonis could have helped because he's a good player. And he would have covered a big hole the Yankees had, which
Yeah.
was their poor fielding, which is why they lost the World Series. In my opinion, like yes, the Dodgers out hit them, and I understand that, but Game 5 was bad.
Game 5 was
Uh,
really bad. That was a
and
disaster.
the fifth inning specifically was the bad inning, and so I think if you would have added a guy like Kyle Tucker, who's great defensively, also very underrated defensively, but great, it would have just added. You would have gained some runs back by how good they are defensively. And it
Mhm.
sucks to miss out on Soto. Everyone wanted Soto, but only one team's going to get him. Congrats to the Mets for spending the money, but
Come on, Mets. It's about the Mets, baby.
it's the grimace. Grimace got him.
Oh man. Great meme. Great meme. Although talking about the Mets is sacrilegious here because my mom hates the Mets because of the Miracle Mets. Right? But yeah, one last thing for me to note there, I think is killer for the Yankees. You do dodge a bullet in terms of having to spend all that money,
Yeah,
but they're taking two steps back. I think a big part that why Soto may have left. It's unspoken, and I don't have a source on this, but look what Aaron Judge did in the post. He folded again. How can you be a multiple time MVP and just every year in the postseason, you just you're just ghosting everyone? And in a big part of Game 5, the defensive errors. Who was it? None other than Aaron Judge dropping that ball. I mean, this guy, when the lights shine, disappears. And I think
mhm.
at least having Soto Soto was a big reason why they made it that far. On top of,
Oh, yeah.
no offense to the Royals and Guardians, Mickey Mouse playoff run. But yeah, I think this is killer for them because they're taking 2 steps back. Now, I don't really consider them a World Series contender until they can either one, get Aaron Judge to figure it out, or two, you need multiple bats now that will not necessarily, you don't even need stars. You need guys that show up in the biggest moments. I think a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, I don't know where he's going to go. He may as well just resign with the Dodgers. But a guy like him, he shined. You need that. And
I mean,
and even if they got Soto back, yeah, you could be worried about the defensive concerns. Just sign a couple guys that don't cost a ton to focus on the defensive side of the game. Let Soto be the guy that handles in the biggest moment, hitting the ball. And I think you could be at least talking about a different story of how that World Series plays out, at least a little bit. On top of the fact, also need to fire Aaron Boone, but that's needless to say. But tough loss for the Yankees. They're back to square one, and they gotta start throwing out something because they're losing on a lot of guys, as you had mentioned. Losing on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes is really unfortunate for them. Great hitter, great glove, a huge pickup for the Cubs. The only concern there is, are you willing to pay him long term? I certainly hope so if you trade for a guy like him. So, but
yeah.
um,
I mean, the Yankees did make a trade. I think it was Friday or maybe Thursday, one of the days. But later in the week, they got Devin Williams from Milwaukee, which, I mean,
true.
Luke Weaver, I think, would have been fine, but I mean, Devin Williams is leagues better than him, and I think for them that's a good trade. They got an end of the game guy that's going to go in and finish the game for him. I mean, he's got a career sub 2 ERA.
He's a
Um,
freaking beast.
and it's I think it's actually even sub 1.5. I could be wrong, but I think what I saw was like sub 1.5, which
That's
is
insane.
wild because he's. I mean, I could. I mean, that screwball changeup, whatever he wants to call it, is nasty.
So it's nasty. I'll
We'll see
say.
how he does it. We'll see how he does in the short porch in right field, but
Uh,
I mean, his career says it. He's dominant.
I think again though, great pickup, but once again, he hasn't been in the postseason much. But again, why didn't the lights shine on him too? He's folded multiple times. And that was in a much smaller market. I am a little concerned about him going to New York and handling a market like that. Now, regular season, not worried about him. Debatably the best reliever in the game in the regular season. But it's about when you want that World Series title, you have got to lock in and figure it out. Now, of course, I think Devin Williams is a much smaller sample size. I think he's only pitched in a few games. That he's been bad in those games, whereas Aaron Judge has, years of postseason failure. So not fair to compare those two, but it is a great trade. He's just gotta, when you make the playoffs next year, or if we should say if, but no reason why they won't. Gotta show up, and but I think it's a great step for them in the right direction to at least fix, help bolster the bullpen. Their bullpen is, they do have some decent pieces. One last piece of the Yankees, since they live in my mind rent free, is obviously the Max. This is embarrassing. Is it Freed or is it Fried?
I think it's free.
Freed. That's what I thought. I've always said Freed, but I've not watched a lot. I've not watched a lot of broadcasts. I keep track on game day a lot, so I do butcher some names. Might as well talk about that signing really quick. 8 years, $218 million deal. I think it's a good move, but I'm a little concerned. One is, well, he's 31. He's in his prime. But he's a lefty in Yankee Stadium. And just, we've seen how Carlos Rodon has gone. Now, granted, Fried is, I think he's light years better than Rodon,
Oh,
but Rodon, lefty pitcher, coming off a couple phenomenal years with the White Sox and the Giants, and he is just folded. And I think the stadium and just the way it is has affected him quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see how Max, as a lefty, will handle that. I think he'll do. I think he'll do better than Rondon for sure. I think it'll affect him a little bit, but I think it's a good pickup. But I think ultimately your bigger concern was your lineup, to me anyway. I know they needed help in the rotation, and I think it's a this solidifies it. You needed a bat though. And now I need multiple bats. So if I had to grade it, I think it's a B. It's a good move, but you need someone to help Judge. Even if it's a veteran at this point, get somebody that do whatever it takes to get Judge to wake up in the playoffs, man. I'm starting to feel bad. Like my roommate's a Yankees fan, and he's like, he just gets so mad at Judge in the postseason. He gets so mad. I just like, God, he just didn't show up. But it's a good signing. Just not. I obviously it was their plan B. This wasn't plan A for them. So we'll see how it goes though. But did you have quick thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean, I think it's a little long. I mean, 31, 8 years, puts him at 39. Uh, he's struggled with being healthy. I think what I saw was he's been injured every season and has not gone a year without being on IL. So that's unfortunate for him. Good for him for getting the deal. But staying healthy is the biggest thing. If
Yeah,
he can't stay healthy,
it's gonna
then
not end well.
yeah, it's not
Yeah,
going to end well. But when he is healthy, he's
he's
probably
a
one of the
beast.
most dominant pitchers
He's a
in the
beast.
MLB.
Yeah,
Watching him, yeah, he is dominant. And he's on, he's on, and you can easily tell when he's not because he's getting hit, uh, giving runs, all of that stuff. But
yeah,
like I said, it's a good signing. I think it's a little bit too long.
yeah.
They're going to unfortunately have to eat probably the last like 3 4 years of that deal. Um, and I think what they're hoping is in the next 2 years that they win a World Series and it'll all be worth it for them. But
It's all worth
I
it as long as you get the World Series. I don't care how long it is. It is worth it. Yeah, for sure.
but if they don't, then um, it'll
It's
it'll it won't be good. Uh,
it'll all be
but
dependent on production at that point.
yeah, apparently the Rangers were in on it in the end. They offered 7 years, 190, and he denied
Okay,
it and decided to go to the Yankees. It was about the same annual average. It
just
was
an
like
extra year. Yeah,
a couple thousands off. It was an extra year, and so he chose that. And so the Rangers settled and brought Nathan Eovaldi back, which honestly,
it's,
much rather have. Love that man. Went to Boston, won a World Series. Came to Texas, won a World Series. It was dominant
he's a
and
winner.
had a. He's a winner, and he unfortunately had a little bit of a rough year last year, battled injuries. But when he's like I said, when he's healthy, he's also dominant. And I think
Yeah.
yeah, you had to pay him 25 million. But that's just where the market's at now.
I was gonna
I
say
think he's worth the 25 million. But market's just high for pitchers. There's not a lot out there. Corbin Burns is the only big one left because the only big sign one that you can trade for other ones. You have to give up some of your prospects, like the Red Sox did. But Corbin Burns is the last one, and so the Rangers felt like they had to give up that 25 a year for 3 years. And honestly, and as a Rangers fan, I like Nathan Eovaldi, and I've always liked him. Liked him when he was a Red Sox, even as a Dodger. Don't like the Dodgers, but I even liked him as a Dodger. Good
I didn't
guy.
realize he was a Dodger.
Yeah.
That's I knew he was in Tampa Bay. I didn't realize he was in LA.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, Max Fried, I think, is a good signing. Um,
Yeah,
but they didn't replace what they needed. They need a bat, and they need
yeah.
some fielding. You're just getting a number two guy that if you don't have those two things behind him, He is a contact. He pitches to contact.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the Yankees do, but that can't be it. There's got to be more.
No, you're losers at the offseason for sure, minus maybe Boston. And even then, I wouldn't go that crazy. The Yankees are the losers of the offseason if they do not get additions to their lineup. There's still guys out there, Pete Alonso, Bregman to me, which would be a weird fit considering the history, but they are interested. Even if you get a guy like him, that is a step in the right direction. But yeah, for me, love the Evaldi signing. As you mentioned, it is a very competitive market for pitchers right now. So you're going to see anybody overpay. So that's why I'm not going to be like too critical on any contract, unless if it's really steep. So like if they gave Evaldi like 5 or 6 years, I'd be like, that's desperate. But Evaldi's a great guy. He doesn't need that long-term contract because he just knows I'm going to win again. Dang it. So I think it's a great deal for Texas. Might be a lot of money, but again, when teams are really reaching out to get help for starting pitching, it's just the price you pay. So I think it's just a good sign for the Rangers that Chris Young and the boys are willing to spend the money. Thank the Lord that stupid Bally Sports nonsense is going to be done because that really killed the team. But yeah, I think overall, to me, probably again a B for Evaldi. Really, the big concern is injuries and age. He is 34, but I think when he's on the mound, his stuff is pretty nasty. So, and I think it'll be helpful because the Rangers' rotation overall. I think the big issue last year was injuries, on top of a struggling lineup, but got to have your starters stay healthy. Somebody's got to stay healthy, and if they can be nasty. So,
And the Rangers have a good returning starting five. They got DeGrom.
yeah,
If you can stay healthy, you now have Evaldi. You have Malley, who once again, if he stays healthy, when he was with the Twins, his last year was pretty dominant before he had Tommy John. So
yeah,
I mean, your top three are. I mean, I know you're hoping to wishing on two of them, but it could be a really good lineup. I mean, and then their batting lineup is going to be. You're going to get Carter back.
uh
Hopefully
huh,
you'll get the Garcia that you got in 2023. He was battling some injuries from earlier that he never actually got taken care of. Apparently, from what I saw, he had a collision with Simeon early in the year, and apparently it was a knee injury that he never got fixed and healthy, which could have played into it. But if the lineup stays healthy, it'll be a good year.
it'd be a
I
good
mean,
team.
the Astros have only traded someone away, so the Astros haven't gotten any better. So
That's good news for the Rangers.
the Mariners haven't done anything. The A's
Shocker.
only somehow the A's
Why are the A's the
are, bet,
ones
are
making
better than
moves?
the other two, getting Severino, and apparently
Uh,
they spent 67 million or something like that on him, and apparently that's the biggest contract the A's have ever given out.
Embarrassing, but good for them, I guess.
Um,
Um,
but
really
yeah, the
quickly,
A,
screw their owner though.
I agree.
You know why this is the off season they started spending money.
Yep,
It was the
yep.
second they got out of Oakland. So screw their owner. But he's a real piece of work, and I think he's a terrible person. Based, but I think he did Oakland dirty, and I think just screw him. But I mean,
Yep.
good for the team making moves finally. I guess. Sorry, just had to say it.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I mean, the other big thing that happened, I guess, this week was the Garrett Crochet to the Red Sox. I mean, they missed out on the
Uh,
Soto. Unfortunately for them, they were also pretty much all in on that, but they didn't stop. They quickly went to the White Sox and got Garrett Crochet. Uh, they kept their two big prospects. Their 1 and 2 guys they got to keep. So honestly, seeing that I think is a win.
it's huge. Yeah. Yeah, they did give up quite a bit, but again, that's the nature of the market right now, and especially when you're a team like the Red Sox that has replenished its prospect pool. Consider one of the deeper prospect pools right now. That's the price you pay. And the White Sox we're looking to, they want a hefty return. I think it's a win for both teams. Red Sox get their guy, albeit this can't be the only guy you get if you want to be competitive again. Step in the right direction, though. And the White Sox are getting quite a few studs there. So I think it's a win for both teams there. And that'll be a very exciting. Looking forward to seeing how that trade all turns out overall. But and the great news for the Red Sox, you don't have to pay the man for a couple of years, so you can still go out and get Corbin Burns if you want. And I think that's what I think that's what they need to be focusing on, to be honest. Losing out on Soto for them doesn't hurt them as much as the Yankees. Just in part, they already have a good lineup. It just would have made it great. Their concern is the opposite of the Yankees. They need pitching, and they need it bad. So start in the right direction. Get Garrett Crochet. Can't be done. I think getting Corbin Burns I consider it a win for the offseason for them if they can do that.
They also need some. They also need some back into the bullpen.
True,
Kirby Yates is
true.
available. David Robertson's still available. There's still a bunch of late inning relievers out there, and so if they can go, I mean, because they're going to have Tanner Houck, they're going to have Cutter Crawford, they're going to have those guys coming back along with Crochet. But we'll see what happens. They just need some back end bullpen guys to solidify that bullpen that really struggled last year. But if they can get a couple guys that can hold it in the 8th and 9th, I think they'll be light years better than they were last year.
Saying a lot because they did look marginally improved, at least compared to 2 years.
You could see where they were.
Yeah, they got some young studs that are coming up, and I think they'll help them team a lot. So
you've got Costas at first. You've got their young stuff. You got Story that could come back. You've got Devers, Jared Duran out in center field.
My boy Jared Duran.
Connor Wong showed some upside. So their lineup's going to be good. Their lineup's going to be there. It's just
can the pitching hold? Yeah. We'll see. I think it'll be an interesting team. I think the last point for baseball was Andres Gimenez, that trade. Cleveland getting Spencer Horwitz, and then they traded him to the Pirates for 2 pitching prospects and Luis Ortiz. Oh, I guess we also had something about Sasaki. But I haven't heard much about that. So
no, there's not a whole lot about
I don't think it's going to be a lot because he just recently got posted. So I think that's something we can go into more next week. But this Jimenez trade is very interesting. I think it's a good pickup for, I think, Toronto, right? It was Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that move, especially since it was kind of in the middle of the Soto, maybe it was in the middle of Soto sweepstakes. I know it was happening while the Fried sweepstakes was going on. So I like this move for them. It shows that Toronto means business to improve their lineup, just improve their team as a whole, and try to be the team that they were promised to be. Because so far they have, despite having Guerrero and Bichetti and all these other guys, Biggio Jr. as well, they have definitely disappointed fans of Toronto. So I think it's just a good two-way player that they snagged. A decent glove, guy gets on base. I think it's a win for them. And Cleveland also got some. Okay, we'll haul them. I'm sorry. But yeah, good move for them. And
I mean, I think it's good for Cleveland. He's got a big contract. I think they said he's owed $100 million the next 4 years, and I don't think and I think Cleveland agrees that he's not worth that. But I think they flipped it for, honestly, Luis Ortiz, who shows some upside with the Pirates, and then 2 lefty pitchers. I mean, that have done well in the minor leagues. So hopefully for them that pans out. They're great at developing their pitchers. I mean, Trevor Bauer, Shane Bieber,
Yeah.
their new one, Bibby or something, however you pronounce his name.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then, I mean, they've got Matthew Boyd that in the playoffs look like the old Matthew Boyd, so they know what they're doing with pitchers. So hopefully for them, they can develop these two pitchers and get it going.
Agreed. I think it'll be interesting how that turns out as well. So, yeah, Cleveland's very good at developing pitchers for sure, and I think those are good snags for them. So, all right, really quickly, since your laptop is dying, we won't try to rush through NHL every week because this is the one sport that Mike and I help get you into more.
Yeah.
And I think the people need to watch more. I encourage you people, go watch the NHL because it is a ton of fun, even if it's not what it used to be, because the physicality aspect is dwindling down a little bit. But just a couple different quick discussions here. We got talking about the Blues. We got the hiring Jim Montgomery and starting to warm up a bit. I think the biggest thing right now, we'll probably talk about St. Louis later. The biggest thing right now, the Nashville Predators. Hilarious, to say the least. My goodness, this is why you don't claim the championship in the offseason. Everybody's talking about, and I've been into it too a little bit. I thought they made some great moves, and they have just wildly underwhelmed. To be worse than the Blackhawks, by the way, pretty embarrassing because we suck. But that's another day. To
Yeah, I
sign,
mean,
oh man, just
yeah, I mean,
brutal.
I was looking up some of their like kind of what's going wrong with Nashville. Before the Stars game, and unfortunately them being Stars, uh, they
Yeah,
lost eight
jeez.
straight before that. Eight
Yeah,
straight, which is crazy uh, with the team that they have. Um, they lost to a team in Montreal who's also not good. But the thing I think that stuck out to me the most was Stamkos only has 14 points in 29 games.
oof.
He's currently sitting at net minus 14 on the year. Forsberg, who always is really good, hate playing him, hate when we have to match up against him because he's just that great. He only has 19 points in the games that he's played this season and is sitting at a minus 10. And so something's going wrong. Don't know what,
I well,
but
I
they
have their
got
goalie
they
in
got to figure out
fantasy.
something.
I have their goalie in fantasy, and it does seem like a big part of their problem is finishing games. Because I've noticed they have had a few times where they've led a game, and all of a sudden I'm checking in the morning. I was like, "Oh, UC Saros is doing great. Oh, you allowed 5 goals. What happened?" It does seem like I don't have the numbers to back this up, but it does seem like they've had a trend of melting down in the third period. It has been killer for them. And not finishing in overtime, I know that for a fact. I've seen them lose multiple games in
Yeah,
overtime.
I mean, in the last
It's
10, they've
hurting
lost
them.
three.
They got to finish. I think ultimately the Stamkos is 34. And he is getting old. And I
Yeah,
think team chemistry is a problem. Signing a bunch of guys for the sake of signing is not always good. And right now, the Stamkos, I think the other guys will figure it out. Brady Shea, I think, will figure it out if he isn't already having an okay year. Stamkos, I'm worried about. You're 34 and you are not producing like what you were doing last year. I'd be worried if I was Nashville because that's a hefty contract to take on. It's no Seth Jones deal. So kill me now. 6 more years, paying him more than the best defenseman in the league. But what do I know? So, but yeah, that Stamkos deal right now is looking pretty brutal. But who knows? The St. Louis Blues, when they won the cup, makes me just grossed out. They were dead last in the league. All it takes is a good run. You
yeah,
got to figure it out quickly. You need a hot run. If you could win 2, 3 games in a row, lose one, 2, 3 in a row, lose one. You can turn it around. It isn't over yet, but they are struggling mightily right now. And I love that the Blackhawks are in last place right now.
Yeah, no, they just gotta get it going. They
So,
gotta find something's
yeah.
gotta spark them, and I mean, maybe they scored 4 goals. I mean, I know their goals for in a lot of games isn't a lot. They're scoring like 2, 3 goals a game, which
Which is
isn't gonna
what they.
isn't gonna win you a lot of games, unfortunately, even
Yeah.
with
Believe me, I
Charles
know.
and
I know.
but
Yeah.
they gotta start scoring more. They have the players to do it. They just gotta score.
Yeah.
Uh, the Avs though, Avalanche are interesting. Um,
Yeah.
as we know, they have completely changed both of their goalies. They traded both Georgiev and Anunin. Georgiev went um, to the
San
San
Jose.
Jose Sharks for Blackwood, and then Anunin went to the Predators for Wedgwood. Um, I don't think it fixes it. Um, I think Blackwood is an improvement. I will say that,
It is
and
definitely an improvement.
I think he's a lot. I think he is also underrated as a goalie, but I don't think that solves the Avalanche issue. I don't think the issue for the Avalanche was always their goalie. I mean, Georgiev is a big part of that, and I'm not going to take that away. Georgiev was
Hmm.
not good. He had one good year and then has fallen off since. But
Yeah.
they've been injured, and I hate to say this, they've been injured, and they're starting to get healthy. So I mean,
That's
Wedgwood is a good goalie. I mean, he was at the Stars for a couple years and enjoyed having him around. Always was a good number two guy,
backup.
backup behind Otter, and I think he's a good. I mean, he showed it his first game with the Avs. He had a shutout. They won 4-0.
Wow. I didn't even
Yeah,
realize that. That's crazy.
yep,
Good
yep.
for him.
They the they're retaining some of Georgiev's salary and had to send a second round pick out to San Jose, which means that San Jose didn't really want him, and they
I don't
just
think
settled.
anybody wanted him.
I don't even know if he's played a game for him yet. Last I saw, he hadn't. But I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Georgiev is rough. He was killing him for sure. I do agree though. I think the reason why the Abs kind of the opposite of Nashville. You can't they shouldn't panic because like you said, they had a lot of injuries. And I know people can say, well, everybody in hockey has injuries. They were missing a good chunk of their bottom six. They were missing a good chunk of their defensive core. It's hard to win when you're missing as much as they were. And so the fact that they're getting healthier, they're Stanley Cup contenders. It's just a matter of staying healthy. Do they win it this year? Probably not, because ultimately, I, I like Blackwood. I think he's a decent, capable backup, and he can fill in uh, for some quality starts. He's just not the guy you want to rely on. Colorado's got to, in the offseason, find a way to get at least a fringe starter. You don't even need a beast, but like a guy like Darcy Kemper, at least when he was there, he was okay. Find a guy that can start 40, 50 games and
Yeah,
at least keep you in the hunt. Because if the goalie can keep you in it, you know what Nathan McKinnon's going to do. He's going to take over. Cal McCarr, too. Those two guys, they're going to take over and they're going to get it done. So it's a step in the right direction for them, though. So it's
yeah.
definitely better than what they had. So,
Yeah. I mean, the
um,
Avs had a chance this offseason with Omar. Boston was trying to trade away one of their guys,
should have
either
gotten him.
Omar or Swayman, and I said in the offseason they needed to go after him,
They
and
didn't.
they didn't, and they said no, we're gonna stick with Georgiev, and he's our guy, and
Brutal.
massively backfired.
Brutal. I'll say I don't blame him for not going for Swayman because right now that's not looking like a great contract. But should have definitely gone for Olmark if we known they were just going to trade him for a bag of Doritos. So
Yeah,
if you're going to do that, like you definitely should have been in contact with Boston the whole time. But not my problem. And well, it is my problem because we're all in the same division. And I don't want Colorado winning, but it is what it is. So I guess the last thing I want to focus on tonight, we'll get back to the Blues next week, but the Jacob Trouba trade, and the Rangers, another team that's really all of a sudden just kind of spiraled out of control. And even last night, Igor allowed 5 goals. I forgot who they were playing, but it should have been a game that they should have been in. And Igor, once again, I can't speak for how bad he really was because, again, I didn't watch the game. It's not fair to be criticizing a guy off a box score, but based off what I saw off the score, it wasn't good. And the Rangers are just spiraling out of control. Panarin, my boy, can't believe we traded you for Brandon Saad. Still hate my life for it. Panarin's the one bright spot right now and pretty much a point a game player. But yeah, the Rangers are falling apart. I think it's kind of funny. But the Jacob Trouba trade threw me out of nowhere because he's your captain. Trading your captain mid-season, actually not even mid-season, quarter of the way through, absolutely crazy. And I don't know what in the world happened because I had not been watching the Eastern Conference as much, so it threw me for a loop. It came out of nowhere. So I don't know how long this has been going on, but just crazy what happened there. And clearly my boy Panarin should have been the captain the whole time because, he can produce and he's not a toxic cancer like Trouba is, but what do I know? I'm just some idiot in a basement. So,
Yeah, see, I don't see. My thing is, are they trying to pin it on someone? Like, oh, this was our issue the whole time. Now that we got him out of here, we're gonna be better. And I don't know. Or are they trying to get a spark going? Because, like you said,
yeah,
they've been struggling. I don't know. I mean, the only people that don't know is the two GMs that talked about it. But this one was out of
wild.
nowhere. Yeah, out of nowhere.
That is crazy. To trade your captain like that is crazy. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I still see them as second round contenders. Um, I'll never call them Stanley Cup contenders because I know from Chicago, I can't, talk smack about teams not being able to win championships. To say the least, Chicago's a disaster. Might be the first city ever to fire all their coaches in a calendar year. Absolutely crazy, but freaking just crazy. The Rangers are a mess, and we'll see if they can turn it around. But injuries certainly aren't their excuse. They just can't figure it out right now. And it might just be, who knows, as simple as their division is competitive, and the Devils have seemed to kind of overtaken them right now as the team to be in their respective area, not necessarily as a Stanley Cup contender, but
Yeah, and Washington has, for some odd reason, decided they wanted to turn back the clock and get younger and get
yeah,
Prime Ovechkin out there. But I mean, the Capitals are another team that have come out of nowhere, and we expected them to be a seventh or eighth seed, but they're up there
I
in the
disrespected them.
top.
I regret it. So they're looking great. So it'll be a good rest of the year. I'm excited, except
Yeah,
for
I
the
mean,
Blackhawks because we suck. So
yeah, we still have 50 games left. For most teams, still 50 games left. There's
yeah,
a lot of things that can change and a lot of things that can turn around.
I
Nashville,
yeah.
Nashville has a lot of time. Colorado has a lot of time. The Rangers have a lot of time. But yeah, I mean, we're only about a little more than a quarter way through the year, and so it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting for sure. My last note on hockey is for the love, we need a northern state to win again. I'm sorry, as much as I'd love to see the Stars win it. Why are we letting Vegas and Florida win? It's a cold sport. Get it together, people. Says the man that roots for a team that, you can't freaking win for squat right now. Whatever. Whatever. So, yeah, I think that's about it. We had a couple other notes here, but your laptop's dying, so I think we can
Yeah,
probably just wrap it up here for now.
I mean, if we
Uh,
want to talk about the Stars and the Blackhawks really quickly, we should be
we
fine.
could cover them. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
the Stars are. I think
Yeah,
Sagan losing Sagan's been tough, and it's showing. We need our top line to show up and do what they normally do. I know we lost Pavelski, and that's a big hole to fill. But I mean, when you still got
yeah.
Robertson and Hintz on that line, I mean, they've got to
Get it
figure it out.
together, boys. I have Robertson in fantasy. He's killing me.
And then slotting Johnston in on that top line. I mean,
Yeah,
that top line shouldn't have missed a beat, but I think unfortunately they had their identity in Pavelski and getting to the net, tipping pucks, and unfortunately they're still scrambling, trying to figure out what's happening. And I think the second line, which was the Duchesne Marchment Sagan line, was the only line that was consistently
clicking.
kind of clicking. Unfortunately, Sagan got hurt and is out the rest of the year. And they got to go hopefully try and find a guy that can.
Yeah,
He can't replace Sagan, but hopefully find a guy that can score goals and set up Marchment and Duchesne. Stan Coven's done a good job filling that role a little bit, but I mean he's a rookie, so
yeah,
he will be good. But he just doesn't create the same stuff as
yeah.
Sagan, who's been in the league for forever and somehow is still really young.
Yeah, I think that your biggest thing is getting Robertson to wake up because wow, he is just he he has struggled this year. I think it's just a confidence thing because he's a star. There's no disputing
Oh yeah,
it. He's just I think he's missing Pavelski. They can get him to wake up. I think the Stars will figure out their identity again. It's just about getting Jason Robertson to do his thing right now, and
yeah,
once you get him to do that. I'm not worried about the Stars. They're
no,
still 17-11. It's still respectable, so it could be much worse. Again, could be the Rangers at
yeah,
500.
yeah.
You could be the Predators, who again won the offseason. So, y'all, although the fact that this is your perception of struggling, to me, is a good thing.
Yeah, I
To
mean,
be second
we did
or
just
third in the division, it's
yeah,
still relatively respectable.
we
But
did pull up one of our guys from the Texas Stars, Bishop. So
okay,
super excited for him. He played in the preseason with us and looked really good. So I'm excited for
yeah,
him. Scored his first goal against Nashville. Uh, but yeah, I'm excited for him. He did well last night. And I mean, stars, they'll find it. They'll find it. They always do. Pete
yeah,
DeBoer,
agreed.
we'll get them together.
Yeah, and my last notes. So Blackhawks are kind of in the midst of turmoil and figuring things out again as they had fired Luke Richardson uh, within the last week or so. Feel bad for the guy. He just was, the opposite of Dan Campbell. You don't want to run through a wall for this guy right now. I think he was just too young, not experienced as a head coach, and was thrown in, to say the least, a disaster of an organization. Uh, Coming into this team that went through what they just went through 2 years ago with that whole scandal, and on top of the fact that they have not been competitive since 2017, it is a tough situation for him. But I just don't think it was the right guy. I hope he gets another opportunity. I've seen much worse. Chicago, he's not. It's sad to say, he was probably the second best head coach in Chicago in the last year. Utterly embarrassing that we're saying that, but it's true. Ebergoof is awful. White Sox manager was awful. Billy Donovan blows. Gosh, I mean, Chicago is in scrambles to say the least. But new head coach. I still have yet to learn his name. I just looked it up. Anders Sorensen. Fun fact: first Swedish NHL head coach. Very surprising, but he is the first Swede born head coach
Yeah,
in the league's history. So excited to see what he can do. He did win today. beat the Islanders 5-3. Bedard got another 2 points. I think he's figured out. He's got his confidence back. I think he's gotten like 5 or 6 points in the last 3 games, which is just great. You need to find ways to ease the pressure off him because he isn't just the star of the Blackhawks. I think he's going to be the star of the city, besides maybe Caleb Williams, if he turns out. I know Bedard will turn out. I don't know about Williams. So there's a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old to turn around a disaster, not of just a franchise, of a train wreck of a sports city, to be this big of a city and to suck this bad at everything is just ludicrous. So it's good to see Bedard is scoring again. He's having fun again. Even if they're going to be bad, it's really important to just keep his confidence high. And I think I hope this guy, at least in the interim, can do that. Hawks have also called up a couple prospects. They're finally figuring out, oh, we suck and we're supposed to call up the young guys? Yes, you morons. So they called up 2 people, actually 3 people. Kevin Korchinski, rookie we drafted in the first round a couple years ago. Excited about him. He seems confident so far. He did play it most of last year, but we sent him to the AHL this year because Chicago moment. If you're going to play him 76 games last year, like, we can't get any worse. Just play him, but whatever. Called up another guy, Frank Nazar. Drafted him last year. I think he was first rounder, one of our 3 first rounders. So it was not his first game, it was his 4th game overall. We're really excited about him. He's really fast. He's a good goal scorer. So I think he'll help out a ton. And then yesterday against the Devils, called up our 2nd round goalie we drafted, I think, in 2021, Drew Comesso. Really excited about him. He had a great first 2 periods before he allowed 3 in the 3rd. But had in mind when it's hard to judge. It's your first NHL game against Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, a bunch of studs in New Jersey. It's a tough first draw. So to me, I think he had a good debut. To have him shut out through 2 periods, I'm content with it. So I think this is the first time I've been excited about Blackhawks hockey in a few years. Finally seen some young guys come up. Going to be a lot of growing pains, but that's kind of the point. Just let them play and let them be who they are, and you will finally start to figure things out. But for now, we're still a disaster. We're still the 3rd most hated team in the league because of what we did. We're not more hated than Vegas and Toronto, though, so sucks to be them. Well, I guess it's subjective, but yeah, that's where the Blackhawks are at right now. So we'll see how the season plays out. But death taxes and us coming in 8th in the division. So, but yeah. Any final thoughts on anything before we end the first episode?
No. I mean, other than we got free agency that's hopefully going to start heating up a little bit in the MLB.
Yep.
Still got some big guys out there. Anthony Santander, big names. Corbin Burns. Everyone's going to be in on Sasaki, but hopefully a lot of decisions happening and players being signed places hopefully soon.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. With that in mind, as we all know, MLB free agency just takes forever. So we just got to be patient and just let things play out. So, so yeah, so that is it. That's 2 Idiots Doing a Podcast. First one. I'm not sure if it'll be the permanent name, but we'll come up with something. Usually we'll record on Fridays, so hopefully post the next day or 2. So we're looking forward to discussing sports with y'all and go anyone playing against Ohio State. So, all right. See y'all later.